No, you read that correctly. The Dutch ate their prime minister, and we're going to talk about it. I stumbled upon this story a long time ago when I was doing research for a college class. When I learned that the people of the Netherlands, or back then they called it the Dutch Republic, ate their prime minister, my first reaction was I probably chuckled. It's a fun folktale. It's not like a legit thing that happened. Just a story that's been passed down the generations. But no, this legitimately happened. The Dutch ate their prime minister and left no crumbs. But don't just take my word for it. We're going to see what historians have to say about this. Here he is. Johan de Witt. To understand why this happened, we need to learn about what was happening in the Dutch Republic at the time. Here's an article from the Dutch Review that tells us a bit about the history. I'm just going to read straight from it to make it easy. The Dutch may seem civilized now, but anyone with some knowledge of European history knows that was not always the case. Europe, including the Netherlands, was not an easy place to live back in the day. You don't say. The continent was ravaged by wars, conflicts, and assassinations. A complete geopolitical mess. And when they say back in the day, this took place in the mid to late 1600s. In the 17th century, Scandinavia and really all of Europe was so chaotic. In 1672, the Dutch Republic was involved in a war with England, France, and two German cities of Cologne and Munster. This year would enter the Dutch history books as Disaster Year, which marked the end of the Dutch Golden Age. In the Dutch history books, there's a slogan about this time period, and it's translated to, "The people were irrational, the government helpless, and the country beyond salvation." What a stressful time to be alive, the article says. Or worse yet, what a stressful time to be leading a country. So Johan de Witt was the prime minister at the time. He led for almost 20 years. Johan de Witt was one of the only leaders of a nation that wasn't a part of a royal family. And that was a big deal at the time. And for some reason, this displeased many Dutch citizens who disliked him and would have rather seen the famous William III take office. William III was a part of the House of Orange, which was the closest thing the Republic had to a royal family at the time. The Dutch people wanted a prime minister who was a part of a royal family, or close to it. However, Johan de Witt was not about that. The de Witt family has governed in the Netherlands since medieval times. Johan de Witt's actual title was the Grand Pensionary, which is the equivalent of a prime minister. The de Witts had a majority rule in the Netherlands for about 20 years. Basically what happened was the people became fed up with the type of government that they had. So here's how all of this crazy shit went down. On June 21, an assassin stabbed de Witt, hurting him gravely. De Witt then resigned from his 20-year-long leadership, but the people conspiring against him were not yet satisfied. At the same time, his brother Cornelius, who ruled alongside him, was arrested for treason, taken to a prison, and later tortured. In those times, torture was a norm, especially as a means to force a confession out of those convicted. Being a strong lad and not intending to conspire against his own brother, Cornelius refused to confess. He was sentenced, however, to exile. Johan went to the prison to see his brother, and as they both departed, they got captured by a militant mob, which shot both of them and left them to the crowds. And here it is. The crowds did what crowds do best, lose all sense or sanity. According to some reports, the two brothers were stripped naked, mutilated, and had their livers removed and eaten. This is so messed up. It's important to note that crowds always liked to pick a souvenir back in the days of public lynchings. Maybe pop some teeth off and put them in your pockets, or perhaps a finger or two. Oh my god. Heck, why not be a legend and take the whole arm? Okay. What is this? Oh my god, there's sound to it? Whoa, 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 whoa. Dutch kids in 1672. Mom, what's for dinner? There, Mom. The Prime Minister. It's unknown whether William III of Orange was involved in the assassination. He totally was. Whatever the case, he wasn't the one eaten by the crowd, so it must have been a win-win situation for him. I have another article here that kind of goes into more detail, because we need more detail. The first sentence says, politics can be cruel sometimes. We need to know why the people were so mad that they resorted to eating him. So that requires us to rewind a little bit. In 1568, the Spanish ruled over this area. The Dutch people waged this war of independence that lasted nearly 80 years. The Dutch Republic became an independent state in 1648. As a new independent state, the Dutch Republic quickly became an economic power in Europe. As such, there was a golden age of Dutch culture at the time, but the fledgling republic remained dominated by the House of Orange. So the House of Orange dominated the culture and the government during this time. And then, in the mid-17th century, Johan de Witt and his brother Cornelius de Witt led a faction of lesser Dutch nobles and merchants who wanted to adopt a more republican model. And beginning in 1650, they became successful. Sorry if the camera is lagging, my camera fucking sucks. So over the next 20 years, under the de Witt's rule, they fought to decentralize the power of the government, which is not what the people wanted. The people wanted a royal family to rule, just like their friends across Europe. The economy was doing so well that nearby nations, most notably France and Great Britain, were jealous. So they tried everything they could to put an end to this Dutch prosperity. So the Dutch were at war with several surrounding nations. And these wars were causing economic turmoil in the Dutch Republic. The House of Orange was mad. The people were fed up, no pun intended. So they captured and tortured him. And as all civilized people do when they're fed up with their government, they ate their leader. And yeah, that's how that happened. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you're interested in this type of content. Thank you again. Goodbye.